Good afternoon, everybody. We're just giving a few seconds for everyone to join us. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. And I think while we're at it, you'll see in the chat, Natalie has added a question for each of you to quickly respond to, just so that we know who's in the room today. If you are a student or a recent graduate, early career professional, established professional, a senior or highly experienced professional, lecturer or academic or any other, please tell us in the chat. Also, would like to see, if you wouldn't mind just dropping your name, the organization that you work for, the institution that you are with, and your location, because we are representative of the continent, so we'd love to see everybody telling us where they're from. And if you feel like chatting, tell us why you chose this profession in the first place, or this study field, if you're still studying. We'll give it another minute or so. Thank you. So I see a number of people have joined us. There we go. Hello, Teresa. We have Tembakazi, if I'm reading correctly. I need to put on my glasses. Yes, Tembakazi from Volkswagen. Welcome, Teresa. Yes, you're also one of our IBC board members. Welcome, Teresa. Always lovely having you here. And any students in the house as yet? I know we have received a number of requests to send our recording to various institutions, but hoping we can find one of our students appearing shortly in our chat. But in the meanwhile, it is 3:03. So I think let's just give it another minute and then we'll kickstart our webinar formally. Hello, Marek Hornsveld from Stellenbosch University, South Africa, Cape Town. Welcome. Sabra, welcome from Tanzania. Lovely to see you as well. Alrighty. While we're waiting for a few people to join, I'm just mindful of time. It's almost 3:05, so let's get cracking. I have switched off my camera as I would like us to focus on our panel speakers. And between Dr. Yemi, Camilla, and Christine, we have approximately 65 years of work experience. I mean, we're going to tap into this wisdom today, no doubt. We're in good hands. And while we nudge questions to our panel, I also want each and everyone who's joined our webinar to reflect on your own personal journey. It's a wonderful opportunity for yourself to give yourself a pat on the back if you've been in the industry for a few years. And if you're a newcomer, well, this is for you. So let's quickly just have a look. IBC, for those who doesn't know, stands for the International Association of Business Communicators. We are the Africa region. We are headquartered, or IBC is the headquarters are in Chicago. In fact, we are the Africa region, and we're very proud to be representing the African continent. And I also want to mention quickly that this is being recorded, and that if you have any questions during the webinar, please pop in the chat for us, and we'll see how we can answer them for you. So let's quickly start. Our guest speakers today. I'm going to do a very brief introduction. I have these beautiful bios in front of me, and those of you that would have seen the post on LinkedIn and WhatsApp had the opportunity to read these fantastic bios. Let's start with Dr. Yemi Adeyemi. He is our IIBC Africa Chair. He's also a strategic communication management professional, and Yemi holds something like more than 20 years experience across various industry, banking, KPMG, Cadbury, and currently now with Nigeria LNG Limited. Yemi is a strategic communications leader, a relationship manager, non-technical risk manager, storyteller, and life coach. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in very good hands this afternoon. Then we have Camilla Osborne, who is IIBC Africa past chair and our current director of governance. She's a strategic communication management professional. Camilla is a communications, marketing, and reputation management specialist with over 15 years experience. She holds a master's from the London School of Economics, and Camilla has a unique ability to apply traditional communications and marketing skills to her passion for development, health, and environmental issues. Camilla is currently the strategic communication lead for Project Last Mile, an organization that applies private sector expertise in marketing and communications to public health challenges across Africa. And then we have Christine Breert. Christine is our IIBC Africa Vice Chair. She's also a strategic communication management professional. And Christine has more than 30 years experience across private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Communication consultant, she founded Christine Breert Communication, and she's known for her creative, facilitative approach to driving shared value and project success. Christine has won several excellence awards, silver and gold, you name it. And she also received the IIBC Ray Hamlin Award for her contribution for development focus projects and membership growth initiatives. So we are good to go. Let's quickly have a look in our chat. We have approximately 22 participants, so it's picking up. Just to repeat what we said earlier, please pop us in the chat your name, where you're from, your organization. If you are a student or established professional, tell us a little bit about yourself. And then I'm going to introduce myself. I am Rihanna Sinden. I am the Director for Professional Development and Events for IIBC Africa. And I'm absolutely honored to moderate this afternoon's webinar. So let's get the show on the road. Righty. Let's rewind the clock and hear from Yemi, Camilla, and Christine about how it all began. And our very first question goes to Dr. Yemi. Yemi, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give your younger self and those starting out in the profession?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rihanna. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be sharing the stage with professionals like Camilla and of course Christine. Well, what would I tell my younger self, really? I guess what I would say is really, you don't have to have it all figured out from day one. I mean, there is that. A lot of us think that being a master or being an expert is all about having all the right answers. I thought so when I was starting out, but today I know it's more than asking the right questions. It's more about listening deeply. It's about continuously adapting. So for those of us starting out, I would say to you, focus on building the fundamentals. And what are those? It's about the network that you create. It's about, the stories, the voices you give opportunities to, and sharpening your skills. So that's what I'll tell myself. I'll say to myself, the mastery you seek is not a destination, it's a journey. So keep at it. Thank you.
Rihanna,
Not
I think
sure.
you're on
Okay.
mute. Has Rihanna lost? I think she might have dropped off.
Sure.
So
Okay.
maybe
So
so maybe what we can do, Camilla, what was the question that she wanted you to ask?
Did I have a mentor in the early days of my career?
Aha.
And yes, I did. I've had a few with varying degrees of kind of engagement. But I think the one that stands out for me most is when I was working at the Coca-Cola Company. So I was head of the communications department for Southern and East Africa. I was at Coca-Cola for about 8 years. And the mentor during that time that really stood out for me was a lady called Amanda. She came out from the Atlanta headquarters, and part of her remit to come out was to gain some field experience, but also to upskill me so that I could then take the head of communications role for this bigger business unit. And I have to say a thank you to my then boss at the time, who basically facilitated that mentorship. And what Amanda taught me was that she kind of honed my strategic thinking on how to implement and interpret data and integrate insights into our reputation management campaigns. But so and alongside the data and the insights piece, what really stood out for me was actually watching her engage with leadership. And she did this with such confidence. She did it with so many kind of strategic questions and clarity. She was very clear and to the point. And she was always so well prepared. And I thought to myself, gosh, I really want to be like her when I get into those meetings with the business unit presidents, et cetera, et cetera. And so I kept watching, and I took my own notes, and some of the elements that I just observed from her, I had now integrate into when I speak to various clients, as well as during my time at Coca-Cola as well. So this concept of preparation, being clear, and speaking with confidence, I think really helped me with my career, and that was some of the important things that my mentor had taught me. But all to say, I think a lot of it was really around relationships, and I built a strong relationship with her, as well as others who have then helped me in various parts of my career as well. Thank you.
Okay, Rihanna, I see you are back.
Yeah, so much for technology. A sincere apologies, and thank you, Christine. That was lovely. Righty. So, Christine, we're at the mentorship question. Camilla's answered that. Have you answered that question, Christine?
No, I haven't answered that. So I think it was such a relevant answer that we all three said that we would like to answer that. And I was very fortunate that I had two really good mentors and one person that inspired me. So the first person that was a mentor was Elise Duncan, and I met her at the ATKV, Afrikaanse Taal en Kultuurvereniging. It's the Afrikaans Language and Culture Society. And prior to that, I used to be the only communicator at an organization, or at an organization. So I just basically did what my predecessors did and whatever my bosses wanted me to do. I never went into, so why do you want it? What is the actual reason? I was a very practical, hands-on, but no strategic insight communicator. And then when I started at the ATKV, suddenly we had 100,000 members, we had all these branches, we had holiday resorts, we had a publishing house. So my whole role changed, and she taught me the value of processes and of systems, and like Camilla said, about relationships, how to speak to people, who to speak to, how to lobby without people realizing it. So she was my first mentor, and whilst I was working there, I met my other mentor, who is Connie de Villiers. And I think he's one of the most brilliant strategic communication minds that there are. He is an out-of-the-box thinker. He just looks at things differently. How he views things, how he says, but it is not about the steak. It's all about the sizzle that I will always remember when it comes to comms. And then the third person who really inspired me was Marili from DEFCOM. So she introduced me to the IABC, to the IBC way, to the Midas touch, and more importantly, to measurement, to data, to goals and objectives. And that if you want to speak to the CEO and the CFO, because those are the only two persons as a communicator that you should really be speaking to in an organization if you want something done, you need to be able to speak their language. And that's one of data and of stats and of insights. And if you can speak their language, then they will be more willing to listen to you. So yeah, those were the three people that opened up my eyes. As I said earlier, I can't remember whether in the Matrix you have to take the red pill or the blue pill, but I took the right pill. Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you so much, Christine. That's beautiful. Yeah, those pills. Yemi, do you want to answer the question about mentorship?
Yes, I would like to. So
Wonderful.
really, I mean, for me, I didn't really set out at the beginning, you know, to have mentors, even though mentorship has really shaped me. I didn't start out to have formal mentors, but I had unofficial mentors in the sense that these are people I love the way, you know, they carry themselves, the way they behaved, the way their career had gone, and I was just, you know, watching them and trying to learn from them. Of course, later I then got mentors. One of the first one would be my uncle, Dr. Kola Adeyemi. It was who taught me that life is really, it must be filled with learning all through, and that once you stop learning, you're done. He worked, had a distinguished career in the civil service, retired, and then decided to get a PhD. After that, he didn't stop. He went on to, you know, he's currently studying law. He is probably in his late 60s. But the bigger lesson that he taught me is about being open, that within the communication field, because that's where he started out as a journalist, ended up in PR. That openness is non-negotiable. That when people hear corporate comms or PR, whatever name you call it, they believe it's spin. You need to just manage people, but it's not. It's you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to be open with people. You have to be sincere. So he taught me that. And then, of course, I've been blessed to have bosses along my journey who have also helped shape my career. One of them, really, Pascal George, taught me that, you know, data is stubborn. Data is something that if you beat it hard enough, it will sing the tune you want it to sing. However, facts are stubborn. And irrespective of how you manipulate the data, those who are discerning will see through your fluff. So at the end of the day, you've just got to make sure that, you know, you always put facts on the table. So, I mean, this now for a lot of these people, I'm trying to also be the kind of leaders they've been to me. And hopefully, I hope I'm doing a good job of it. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful, Yemi. Thank you so much for sharing that. Alrighty, any questions from our audience? Do we have any questions? Just looking at the chat right now, doesn't seem like it. You are more than welcome to drop your questions in the chat as the webinar progresses, and we'll see how we can answer them. Alrighty, so let's fast forward to 2025. We reflected a bit on where you come from and how it all came about, the mentors you had, the lessons you've learned, pretty much all the good stuff. A question to Christine. Let's go with, what should graduate students and early career professionals focus on as they begin their journey now in today's ever-changing world? And Christine, let's be honest. I mean, the world is changing at the speed of light. We now deal with artificial intelligence. Back in the day, when you and I started, we were managing fax machines, if I'm not mistaken. And now here we are with AI. Yes. Christine, so what do you think students or early entrant professionals should be focusing on right now? You're muted, Christine. Sorry.
Apologies.
There we go.
So I think, first of all, they need to realize that knowing how to use Canva and AI does not make you a communicator. Those things are important, but it's not going to make you a good communicator. So you need to know what the IABC, Midas Touch, or the Excellence is. So those are basically 6 steps that we say, if you attempt any project, that's how you do it. So you tell us what the business need is, what your communication need is, who your target audiences are, what your objectives and your goals are, how you're going to implement it, what's the actual strategy, and how do you measure it? Because those things are what is important. Things have changed from what Yemi said. Previously, we were known as the spin people or the story people. As a strategic communicator, if you want to make an impact, you need to have the facts prior to your project, during your project, and after your project, because you need to show what the business impact is that you can make. And if you follow the IABC Midas Touch, you will definitely be able to do it. Backup and research is non-negotiable. Go and look for it. Find the evidence that you need to make your case. And then thirdly, as we've all said, invest in relationships. And I always make a joke, but it's really a tongue in the cheek joke, is you need to know the PA of the CEO and of all the directors. They need to be your best friends, because they normally know what is happening, who is saying what, where they are. And as a communicator, you can do your job best when you are informed. So Midas Touch, research and data, and relationships, those 3 things.
Fantastic, solid advice. We're all nodding our heads. Absolutely spot on, Christine. Can't agree with you more. Yemi, there's so much pressure to stand out early, to build a portfolio, create a personal LinkedIn brand, project an image. In your view, do you push for visibility? Do you stay behind the scenes, or is there a middle ground?
Yes, indeed. I think there is a middle ground. Visibility is important. It is the kind of one of the things that will help fuel your career. But substance matters more, really. Early in my career, I focused more on doing the work, sometimes behind the scenes, but those things later became things I could amplify. I could, I could bring out, especially during appraisals, and then later when social media came, of course, you can then brag about them on LinkedIn. But you see, the thing about it is, leaders also know the difference between when you're just, like we say in Nigeria, boo-boo them. That's when when it's fluff, versus when there's substance in it. So it's best to, first of all, focus on the substance, make sure you do the work, of course, then look for the opportunity to push what you're doing, have leaders who are, able to speak for you because they know what you do. So that way, you're not just building your brand, but you're also being grounded in actual value. So, it's not just for social media. You really know that when it counts, people know that, oh, this person can deliver, and that is really quite important as you move up in your career. So that pressure to stand out is there, but don't let it be the focus. Let's doing the real work be your focus. Thanks.
Absolutely valid, very valid. Substance. Get the job done, and the job speaks for itself, doesn't it? Yeah. But there's a fine balance, because we also want to have a LinkedIn presence. We want to be seen as people who know what we love what we do. We believe in what we do. We have views about certain things. So it's a very fine line. But thank you so much for that, Yemi. Substance, always substance. Let's go over to Camilla. What advice would you give our early career communicators who want to build a career that's both flexible yet future-proof?
Thanks, Rihanna. Yeah, I think I'm going to draw on both of the points that were made by Christine and Yemi. And I mean, ultimately, communication at its core is a people-first profession, right? So if you don't invest in relationships with your colleagues or clients, mentors, or even competitors, you won't have a network to lean on and collaborate with and learn from. But there's one thing to have a good network and there's another thing to sustain it. And so that's where the substance comes in. So sustaining a good network is obviously about showing up consistently, delivering the value, and being known as someone who not only listens and cares, but also follows through. So, and ultimately, as you go through your career, you'll realize that the communications world is smaller than it seems, and reputation does travel. I actually did not start off in communications. My master's was in environment and development. And so I've managed to kind of go from the development world into communications and reputation management, and now I'm blending the two. But essentially, all of my roles and projects and jobs that I've received have been through personal connections. My first job was at Africa Practice, based in London, and that was through a friend and a colleague. And then to Coca-Cola as well. And all the big projects I now consult for are actually through relationships that I've made over time. So that being said, I mean, equally important is emotional intelligence, the ability to read the room, adapt your tone, manage tension, and kind of lead with empathy. And what I truly believe is, as we're entering into this world where AI just seems so omnipresent, the one thing that AI cannot replace at this stage, hopefully, is emotion. And so I believe that if we can make EQ a superpower or your superpower, then that's one way to kind of make sure that you stay on top of things and build your career that is flexible and future-proof. So in my opinion, that's done by simply just being a good person. Be someone others want to work with again and again. Skills will evolve, channels will change. People will always remember how you made them feel, right? Like it's that one-on-one connection. And that's the legacy, and that's how you can future-proof your career. It's not whether your latest social media post was absolutely beautiful and totally insightful. It's how you made someone feel.
Oh gosh, emotional intelligence, absolutely. And that speaks beautifully to leadership and to inner leadership. So before we go to that self-mastery section, I just want to quickly ask Dr. Yemi. Yemi, in your opinion, what common missteps have you seen young professionals make, and how can they avoid them? So apart from the fact that you said earlier, substance, your work, get cracking, the rest will happen. Any other common missteps that you have observed and that you think young professionals, especially students that now enter the industry, should be very, very aware of?
Yes. Quite a few, but I don't want some of our friends to probably catch me at one of the IEBC conferences and pull me to the coffee room. So I'll just focus on one, and that's impatience, really. Camila just talked about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something, it's like muscles, that you exercise and build. The more you exercise those muscles, the stronger they become. So that's how you grow emotional intelligence too. So why do I say impatience? So you see, we've got a lot of young professionals, who are looking forward to the title. They want to enhance the VP, corporate comms. You want the recognition, but you don't want, that grind of competence, which I talked about earlier about substance. So I've seen those who, you check out the CVs. There was a recruitment I was part of a while back, and I was seeing things like managed strategy for someone who is just starting now off 2-3 years experience. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't contribute to, the shaping of the strategy and all that, but you must first of all understand the basics, the fundamentals. I see these days people unwilling to spend much time on what tax they consider as very low. So the basic draft, the press release. I mean, you just think you just can chuck it into AI and it will come out. Millie just told us, where's that emotion? That's something you have to learn. You have to understand the tone of the organization you're speaking for, and you've got to inject that in what you're preparing. It takes a whole lot of learning to be able to do that. So you must be patient to understand that process. You must be willing to engage stakeholders at the grassroots. You must be willing to meet them at their watering holes. And that's something that people really can't teach you. You've got to watch. And so you've got to be careful, you've got to be patient, you've got to watch, you've got to develop those authentic relationships. And then I love talking about the IABC. You've got to be part of the community where you can learn, where your network can grow. I know there's that popular saying about your network is your network. Within the IABC, I have been exposed to a global network where I can learn or ask a question. I can check on someone in Asia Pacific, in South America, and those are some of the things that come in. But you don't get that by just being a member. You get it by also being a volunteer, by helping to, carry out programs, by being part of webinars like these, by attending conferences. So you've got to be patient. You've got to learn the ropes. You've got to be part of a community. So if you do all that, then of course, doors will open a little bit quicker. And then of course, the titles will come. We all want recognition, and it will definitely come. Thank you, Oriana.
Thank you, Yemi. Patience is a virtue. For sure. Christine, do you want to add to that question about common missteps? Anything you want to add that maybe Yemi has not mentioned?
Common missteps in terms of self-mastery and how to get there.
Yeah, just in terms of being a young professional, you're ready to go, you're at it,
Yeah, so I do agree with what Yemi said, and I think one of the positives as well as the negatives of being young is you are so full of self-confidence. Come on, you're just out of varsity, you've got 3 years of knowledge, you have an honors degree, you were a Golden Key student, so according to you, you know everything in life. And then you walk into work and you realize, I absolutely do not know anything. So be willing to listen. And as Yemi said, be willing to speak to everybody, from the lowest person in the organization to the highest person. Treat them with respect. And like Camilla said, communications is a human-centered thing. That's why we do it, because we put people at the center of everything. And that's what we need to live out as young communicators as well. And all of those other things, all the accolades will actually follow. But yes, do involve yourself in an organization like the IABC. Get involved, reach out. I have a friend who says that I am connected like a roadmap. And that's what you need to do in life. Make sure that you are the roadmap in your organization or in your circle, that people come to you when they need answers, or subject matter experts, because that's how you grow your actual network, but it's also how you gain insight into what is needed.
Lovely advice. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, be the roadmap, have a network. And I think as a young professional, when you start out and, you're so eager and you're very ambitious and, have all these wonderful ideas, and then you find yourself in a position where no one listens to you. No one listens to you because you are the junior. And that is unfortunately the reality. But like Camilla has mentioned earlier, it's all around relationships. Be who you are, be real, have empathy. Yemi mentioned patience. which is difficult when you're young, because I think we all remember when we were young, we weren't necessarily all that patient. And then obviously what you just said now, just, work yourself in the organization, build it on credibility, and navigate your way around that. Okay, so the next section,
At this point, actually, I just had a thought. Sorry to interject. In reflection of, when I was young and when we, which wasn't too long ago, but and we did a big recruitment drive also at Coca-Cola. And one thing that's, and again, I can't speak for every single youth out there, but you're very self-conscious as a young person, I think. And sometimes that element of being self-conscious can get in the way of learning, because you're constantly thinking, oh, how do you think people think about me? And what am I doing this correct? Sometimes it's okay to just not think about that and just observe and just watch and listen and not worry about how people might view you if you come in like a minute late to a meeting room. That's fine, and because everyone else is thinking about something else. So the moment that you stop thinking too much about yourself and start listening and observing, that's when a lot of the learning actually happens, especially in the workplace. And that's just in reflection, what I probably should have done a little bit more as a young person. I was so worried about what other people would think about me. And also what I've seen when we did a big recruitment drive at Coca-Cola to recruit young talent. And it's not easy to get rid of that self-doubt and that introspection of self-confidence. But I just thought I'd flag that in this forum. It's something that occurred to me just now. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Camilla. Yeah, we can all relate. Absolutely spot on. Don't be too self-conscious. Just chill, breathe, and things will fall in place. Righty, let's shift gears to focus on self-mastery. So I had to pull this line from Invictus because I think it really sums it up beautifully. Some of you may recognize this. I am the master of my fate and I'm the captain of my soul. It's so deep. Incredibly deep, but that is self-mastery. It is the deep stuff. So perhaps this question to Christine, maybe it's an unfair question, but let's see how this goes. Is there a secret formula to self-mastery? And if so, in your opinion, Christine, what is that secret formula?
So I think the sort of main thing is when have you achieved self-mastery? But that's a Yoda question, so let's not go too deep into that. But I think it's a question of, if you want to have self-mastery, you need to be curious about life, you need to be adaptable, and you need to have courage to fail. I actually have a poster up in my office that says it is not a failure, it's a learning experience. We all went through things that if you look back, you think, whoa, either why did I do it or how did I get through it? And for me, it's a question of being curious, that lifelong learning that Yemi spoke about. And that's also why I'm part of the IABC and why I enter my projects into the Quill Awards, because I want to measure myself against my peers on an Africa level as well as an international level, to see whether what I think I know is really good enough, and then to have other courses, to attend webinars, to read articles that are interesting. I love facilitating and I love training, so that's also for me a form of self-mastery, to go and find out more what it is, how it actually works. But you need to be kind on yourself in the process as well, because as I said, I don't think we will ever be masters. Like they also say, it takes about 10,000 hours to become a master of something. So given my age and the years that I've worked, then in theory, I should be a master by now. But things are changing so constantly and at such a fast pace that I don't think that we're at that level where you can call yourself a master. You can rather call yourself, I'm very knowledgeable, or maybe I'm an expert. But self-mastery might be a bit of a stretch in the world that we live in today.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like being a student of life.
Yes,
Never too old to
absolutely.
learn. Never too old to learn. Absolutely. Righty. Let's go to Dr. Yemi. Yemi, what is one non-negotiable daily habit that keeps you grounded and centered? Is there something that you do to kickstart your mornings that just put you in the right mindset? Or do you drink a lot of coffee, or don't you drink coffee?
Actually, I was almost tempted to say, food, but being that is critical. But on a more serious note, I think it's daily reflection. I want to check, but I do mine more at night than in the morning, which is what have I achieved today? Did I achieve all the goals I set out, and what impact really do those goals, what's do they signify? And then of course it's about what are the improvements I can make, and then what's my plan for tomorrow. So once I sleep on that, I wake up the next morning, I'm energized to go on. And this habit is really something I think I got from my dad growing up, because he would each night plan is the next day, so, and I've seen that it helps, because most times you need to break down big goals into smaller tasks for you to be able to achieve them. So if you have something even at work that you've committed to, you've told someone, I'm going to give you this report or this documentary or whatever it is in a fortnight, then don't wait till the last 48 hours to start. So if you've mentally broken it down, first 2 days, I'm going to do the concept, and then, so that helps you to, with a credible pathway to delivery. So that's one thing that has helped me a lot, reflection. And it also helps to learn, helps to learn from the probably mistakes you've made in the day, how you've also treated people or something. And I've had situations where I've probably behaved in a certain way to a stakeholder, and then the next day or 2 days or 3 days after, or at our next meeting, I make sure I repair the relationship, and reflection is what helps me. So it's a very important tool I use daily. Thanks.
Reflection. It does. Hey, gosh. Righty. Pretty much now to Millie. Sorry, Camilla. I knew I was going to do it, Camilla. It was about to happen. Camilla, what do you think are the most underrated skills communicators bring to the table? And have you tried to hone any of them on your self-mastery journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think the most underrated skills are those that are kind of natural and innate abilities of excellent and good communicators. So I'll list out a couple. I mean, we've talked about many: empathy, emotional intelligence, judgment, curiosity, lifelong learning. And I'll expand upon these other three that I think I'm still trying to master. The first is this concept of active listening. So good communicators have this deep, intuitive listening ability, which picks up not only on what is being said, but why and how it's being said. This is particularly important in boardroom settings, and being able to then think through and create strategies to connect the dots. It also helps to build kind of better relations and foster trust if you have this kind of active listening ability. The second is clarity of thought. So good communicators have the ability to distill complexity into simplicity and create compelling narratives out of that. So often a person who naturally thinks clearly is more likely to speak and write with clarity. And this is particularly helpful in times of crisis. So if you're working in crisis communications, you obviously need to have this clarity of thought. And the third one is confidence, composure, and integrity. And I think a professional communicator is very comfortable being that calm voice in the room, but also a voice that questions and can ask the tough questions to not just the critical stakeholders, but also the leadership. And you can kind of combine this innate commitment with honesty and ethics, with this composure and confidence, and you become this very powerful voice in the room, especially during times of uncertainty and change. So, as I say, like there's so many skills out there as a communicator, but I think it's the underrated skills are those which are kind of innate to being a good communicator, and you don't necessarily have to be born with them, but this concept of observing and understanding what those innate abilities are, and trying to find experiences or mentors who allow you to kind of hone those innate skills, I think is really important, and something that I continue to do in my career. Yeah, I often put myself in situations that I'm like, why am I putting myself in this situation? I'm like, okay, no, I'm putting myself in this situation that I can learn and think through it. And then this concept of reflection that Yemi talked about as well, is key to that.
That's wonderful advice. I love the perspective, Millie, really. That is just incredible, solid. I think for all of us in communication, the need for active listening and this intuition that we carry. It's a gut feel. And never, ever ignore your gut feel. That's the one thing I've learned the hard way. At the times I've ignored my gut feel, things went south very quickly. So, yeah, and it's difficult to explain a gut feel because it's different for everyone. But it's a nagging little voice in the back of your head saying something is off. Interrogate, ask questions. Don't be afraid to... it's not necessarily conflict, but sometimes we have to really stand strong and be brave and courageous, because it also affects ethics, right? So I wonder if we should ask Yemi, and this is a tricky one, Yemi, because I know when we looked at this question, I thought, oh, but let's go there because I think we all can share. And if anyone in the audience wants to add some advice, please do so and enter your piece of, your 2 cents in the chat. Here goes, Yemi. What advice would you give to communication professionals who feel stuck, uninspired, or unsure of what's next? Where to from here? More so when the passion fades or the path feels unclear. It happens to the best of us, doesn't it?
Indeed, Rihanna. And I like what the way you've put it. First, I'd like to say that feeling stuck is normal. We've all been there. I have been there, especially when suddenly maybe you just wake up, the passion has dipped a bit and you're wondering, why am I doing this or what am I doing here? So my advice is always to reconnect with your why. I mean, that's what works for me. And like I said, I've been there not once, not twice. The very recent one was during my PhD program, quite a number of times when I was just, low down there, and I'm like, what's this doing for me? Then of course, I have to remind myself, you're learning, you're trying to broaden your knowledge base and also give yourself more opportunities, and so that kind of fuels me, and I'm able to continue. So it's for you to, it's important. We talked about reflections earlier. It's for you to, it's important to engage in those intrapersonal conversations when you are at that point. Then again, it's also good to stretch yourself. Stretch yourself, move out of your comfort zones, do something new, if you have to. I'm not saying abandon what you were doing that got you stuck, but I mean, it's also okay to know when you're stuck and something is no longer important and you need to leave it. One of my favorite songs is The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, said you've got to know when to hold your cards, you've got to know when to fold them and know when to walk away. So it's important when you're in that state of mind to go back to your why. And then, that most likely is going to help you to reconnect and get re-energized. And it has worked for me severally. So that's the advice I will give, and that's what I will recommend.
Fantastic. Now I've got that song in my head. Thank you. It's such a good song as well. Alrighty. Let's reflect on leadership. So from self-mastery and leading your life, leading your reflections, leading intuition, all these things. And now we take on the role of leadership and communication. We become the head of this and that, executive director, so and so. So question to Millie. Millie, what have been some of the biggest mindset shifts on your leadership path? And do leadership styles need to change for future needs?
I'll answer the second part of the question first, and then I'll answer the first part about my own leadership mindset. So AI is, I'm in the middle of a AI in social behavior change communications training course at the moment. So AI is on top of my mind. So I really do think that future leaders, we need to be orchestras of trust in this increasingly fragmented world, right? And so I think 3 shifts stand out for me that I believe will affect leadership styles. One is, and Christine touched upon at the beginning of our webinar, data fluency and insight generation. Sadly, it won't be enough to just rely on our instinct, even though we might have fantastic hunches and instinct. But we do still need to, will even more rely on the ability to interpret behavioral, digital, and reputational data. And that's going to be core to a lot of the strategies moving forward. So data fluency and insight generation. Second is ethical agility. So as AI and immersive media continues to reshape communications, we're going to be the guardians of authenticity and ethical engagement. And so we really need to be quite introspective as to how we engage with these platforms and whether we are minimizing harm. And ethics is such a can be a very complicated minefield. But I work in the area of public health now, and ultimately, your doctors abide by the Hippocratic Oath, which is to do no harm or to minimize harm. And so whenever I get confused around ethics, I always go back to this single one point, which is, am I minimizing the amount of harm that I could potentially do? And that helps kind of clarify and crystallize things for me. So ethical agility. Interdisciplinary thinking. So I've been lucky enough to work across all different industries. And I think the future of communications and communicators will be even more fluid between sectors and roles, and they'll have to blend skills between marketing, public affairs, stakeholder engagement, behavioral science, even product development. And so to be able to dabble and dip into those different types of interdisciplinaries and the different approaches that those sectors use will be important. So I don't think fundamentally leadership styles are going to change, but I think some traits will be more effective than others, depending on also kind of what part of industry or where you are in your leadership career. But ultimately, I think we still need to be highly strategic and deeply adaptable to be able to ask the right questions and understand our own biases and other people's biases, and to question our assumptions and other people's assumptions. So I think that last point talks to my biggest mindset shifts is understanding when I am making an assumption. That's been quite key. And also knowing myself enough to know what biases I am putting onto the table, especially when I have conversations with the team members and things like that. So that, as well as being humble and connecting with this broader group like IABC to understand how other leaders are working and to work that into my leadership styles.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
No, it's fantastic. Love that answer. Sure. Thank you so much, Camilla. I'm just mindful of time. I think we have 5 minutes to go. So let's quickly have a look. Maybe one last question and then we'll wrap things up. And I'm going to ask the question to all three of you, Yemi, Camilla, and Christine. If you had to summarize your leadership philosophy in 3 words, what would they be?
So who's going first? Okay.
Yemi.
So I'll say clarity, compassion, and courage. And clarity for me, because you've got to be clear about what you need to do. Confusion is the enemy of trust. Compassion, because be it the people you lead, be it your stakeholders, you've got to be able to empathize. You've got to understand people's situation so you can connect with them and really meet them at the do for them what you need to. Then of course courage, because leadership is all about making tough decisions. And at some point, you just need to find that courage and do what needs to be done.
Fantastic. Camilla? 3 words.
I'm doing a very typical communications thing and trying to create 3 of the same, like alliteration, just like Yemi did. So I've got to be heartfelt, genuine, heartfelt, to be honest, and that also talks to having those hard conversations, and to be humble. Those are my 3 words.
Beautiful. And Christine? You muted, Christine. Sorry.
I'm going to steal from Yemi in terms of clarity, because I think it's important. If you can't be clear, then you can't communicate. But then I want to add consistency, because you need to be the same as you were yesterday, as you were, or as you're going to be tomorrow. It doesn't matter whether you are in menopause or what is happening in your life. Consistency is important. And as a leader, you need to set the example, being it through lifelong leadership, being it through living out the values. So setting the example. It's not quite 3 words, but
Yeah, no, for sure. We get the gist. Thank you so much, Christine. One last question, and it's a fun one. So here we go. If there's one song that best captures your professional journey to date, what would it be? Yemi, over to you. One song.
You've got mine already, The Gambler.
Oh, okay.
Kenny
The
Rogers.
poker one. Camilla?
The Eye of the Tiger. Come on, you can do this.
True story. And Christine?
Mine is I Will Survive.
Yeah.
Resilient. It doesn't matter what is happening. Woohoo! I will survive.
Absolutely. On those very high notes, to all our guests who've joined us today, hearty thank you. We trust you've enjoyed the insights. I definitely have. And if there's any information that you want around membership, if you're not a member, do give us your email address. And then Natalie and Natalie is our backbone. She's the IABC Africa Secretariat. We would be absolutely lost without Natalie Patch. So shout out to Natalie for all the work she does. Natalie will, for everyone who's attended today, we're going to send a one-pager, IABC one-pager content, something valuable, a how-to. Not theory, but maybe more how-to that you can use in your practical profession, just to give you a bit of a feel of what it means to be a member if you're not a member. And those who are members, you'll still get the same, you'll get exactly the same gift, so don't worry. And that's it from our side. Thank you so much to Yemi, Camilla, and to Christine. And sorry for dropping off earlier. Thank you, Christine, for always being ready to pick up the pieces. Have a fantastic afternoon, everybody, and we'll chat soon. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.